Welcome to Gunpla News. This is Nick Saver, your host, and today we're going to talk about the Autumn Next Phase 2022, the new releases coinciding with the All Japan Model and Hobby Show that was this past weekend. First up, the biggest announcement of the show, I think, the one that everybody's been waiting for, is the new Ver.Ka, which is going to be the Zeta Gundam Ver.Ka. Seems like from word on the street that the interest is mixed because it is the Zeta. A lot of people were hoping for another model, but it does look to be an interesting one as always, and the new Ver.Ka is always an exciting announcement. They also announced a brand new line of models, the MG-SD. There's been a lot of speculation as to what this is going to be. The first one's going to be an MG-SD Freedom Gundam. The price is 4290 yen. It'll be released in January 2023. What's interesting about this new line is that it is an SD-sized kit, or an SD proportioned kit rather, but it's going to be significantly larger. I think one of the examples for scale showed it about as tall as a high-grade kit, but it should have all the MG kind of features that we're used to in terms of inner frame, articulation, and the like. Next up, there were a bunch of announcements for new SD Gundam World Heroes kits. First up, the SDW Heroes Black Dragon, price is 1320 yen, scheduled for release in 2023. Next up is the SDW Gundam World Heroes Blue Dragon, also 1320 yen, scheduled for release in February 2023. And finally, the SD Gundam World Heroes Superior Strike Freedom, which has an interesting gold color scheme, also 1320 yen, scheduled for January 2023. Next up, there were a bunch of new announcements from Witch of Mercury, which I'm sure everybody will be interested in, as we're still waiting to see the first Witch of Mercury kits show up here in the US. First up is the Gundam Aerial, this time in full mechanics form, which is very exciting. It'll be 4180 yen, scheduled to be released in March 2023. Seeing as this is the main suit of the Witch of Mercury anime, we're expecting it to be very popular and the first iteration in 1/100 scale. Hopefully it will do well enough that they'll consider doing master grades from the series as well. There also seem to be a bunch of other new high-grade kits from the series. First up, the Big Gear Pente, 1760 yen, 2023. Nice dark color scheme. Not having seen the show yet, it looks like it could potentially be an antagonist suit. Also, several variations of the Elfrith. First is the Elfrith Thorn, 1760 yen, scheduled to be released in March 2023. The Ilfrith 2090 yen, also March 2023. Both look like they might be upgrades on the Elfrith that has shown up in the prologue and appear to add additional armor and features. Next is the Hindre, 1760 yen, scheduled to be released February 2023. Another interesting looking mobile suit. The Michaelis, 1760 yen, scheduled for release January 2023. The Minnesota Flight Unit looks to be a add-on flight unit for probably one of the other mobile suits from the series. 880 yen, January 2023 for the release. The Zowart, 1760 yen, scheduled to release in February 2023. Looks like it could be a grunt suit based on the design. That one has caught my eye a bit. Next up is the Tikbalang, 1430 yen, scheduled to release in February 2023. Looks to be some sort of support unit. Be interesting to see how that plays out in the series when it gets released. Okay, next up, there were several announcements from 30-minute missions. First up is the Spinacia Reaper. We were joking about this right before the announcements that which 30-minute missions kit was going to look like another Gundam and what that Gundam would be, and it appears to be a Spinacia Reaper. It definitely has a Death Scythe Hell vibe with the wings, although it has an axe rather than a scythe. So I guess they were trying not to get too hard on that. The price was 628 yen, scheduled to be released in February 2023. Next up is the option part set large cannon / arm unit. Looks like it can be either used as a large cannon, obviously, or also as an arm unit, very reminiscent of the Magnach Auto Custom with that large lengthened arm for the hand there, which should be kind of interesting. The price is 968 yen and is scheduled to be released in January 2023. Next up, 30-Minute Sisters. There are a bunch of announcements for this as well. Sis Do, or D00, I can't really tell. Price 2750 yen, scheduled for release in February 2023. Has some tiny bat wings, kind of similar to the Reaper that we saw a few slides ago. Next up, option parts set 6, Chaser costume color A. Looks like some more body parts for the 30-Minute Sisters line. Price is 1650 yen, scheduled to release in February 2023. Next up, 30-minute option body parts, arm and leg parts, white and black. Just as the name describes, some arms and leg parts for your 30-Minute Sisters. Price is 990 yen, scheduled to release March 2023. There's also new hairstyle parts, volume 7. Price is 660 yen, scheduled to release in February 2023. Last up for 30-Minute Sisters, there appears to be a mashup of 30-Minute Sisters and Pretty Derby, the Tokai Teo Uma Musume. Price is yet to be announced, but it's supposed to be coming out in March 2023. Be interesting to see if they attempt any other kind of mix and match with other series for girl-type figures. Next up, we got a Kamen Rider announcement, Figure Eye Standard Shin Kamen Rider. Price is 1,400 yen, scheduled to release in March 2023. Next up, Pokemon. There are 2 new Pokemon kits announced at this show. First up is the Metagross, price 1,430 yen, scheduled to release February 2023. The other Pokemon kit that was announced is another Pokemon Quick Kit, the Bulbasaur. This one is interesting to me as one of the original Pokemon that I remember as a kid. It'd be interesting now that they've got Charmander and Bulbasaur if they're going to plan on doing a Squirtle in the near future. Price is 715 yen and is scheduled to release in March 2023. Next up, Digimon, the Angemon, 2750 yen, scheduled for January 2023. There were also several anime kits announced. First up, the Brady Fox Type G. Looks like it's a variant on the Brady Fox we've already seen. Price is 2750 yen, and it is scheduled for March 2023. Next up, the Miles Byakuchi Drill and Claw Arm. Price is 2640 yen, scheduled for February 2023. Another variation on a suit we've already seen, the Byakuchi. Interesting to see if there's going to be a kind of a trend with these upgrades on existing units. Finally, we got some Bandai tools. The Bandai entry tool set looks like it's basically the entry nippers, a pair of tweezers, and a very simple parts separator for 1,430 yen, scheduled for January 2023. Next up, there were some kits announced for looks like Ginga drifting VFAMs. I'm not too familiar with the series. They look like they're multi-unit sets, and I'm curious if they're like the Dragon R sets that had multiple older releases repackaged together as a new release. The price on the set is 3,850 yen and scheduled for release in January 2023. There's also a singular high-grade VFAM. Price was not announced, but is also scheduled to be released in 2023. Mazinger appears to be having a big anniversary, I think the 50th anniversary. There's a high-grade Mazinger Z Infinity version. Looks like it's some sort of gold-coated version. Price is yet to be announced, but it is also scheduled for some time in 2023. There appears to be also some customization parts that were announced. There's one pipe parts multi-joints, priced 550 yen, scheduled release in January 2023. Customization parts are always welcome, and so it'll be interesting to see what else they do with this line as they start releasing more. There's also a 3D metallic seal, 538 yen, January 2023. 3D lens seal, 528 yen, January 2023. Cyber Effect multi-joints slash multi-joints. This one's interesting. It looks almost like a set of dragonfly type wings that could be applied to a mobile suit or a 30-minute missions kit. Price is 748 yen, scheduled to release in February 2023. There's a chain parts multi-joint set. Price is 660 yen, scheduled release in March 2023. This one's interesting. The chain with a spike ball, kind of like the old school hammer, quote unquote, used by the original Gundam and some of the original material. The whole flail type weapon seems to be really interesting. Next up is the high-grade Huckbane Mark II. I don't know much about this unit either, but the price is 4950 yen and it's scheduled to release sometime in 2023. Next up is the Figure-Eye Standard Amplified Blue Eyes White Dragon from Yu-Gi-Oh! If you're unfamiliar with the Figure-Eye Standard Amplified line, it's kind of a mechanization of non-mecha characters, pretty common for Digimon kits, for example. The price is 5280 yen and it's scheduled to be released in March 2023. Finally, last announcement of the show was the first Macross kit to be released in a super long time. This is the HG1100YF19. Price is 4180 yen, scheduled to release in January 2023. From the looks of things, it will transform into all three modes, and I'm sure it will be an exciting release for a lot of people. And that is it for the announcements. Thank you for watching. Please let us know down in the comments below which kits you're most interested in, and if you know any details on anything that I might have missed, your comments are welcome as well. Thanks for watching. See you next time.